right, welcome back into Indiebnb. Today, we are welcoming back Mr. Jameson Tankersley of Jameson Tank. Jameson, how we doing today?
Great, man. It's good to be back, man. It took too long to get back. I mean, completely my fault, but I appreciate you having me again, man.
Well, I don't blame you. I mean, I tell you what, since we last spoke, you guys have, played maybe around the globe and or at every fraternity sorority in the Southeast
Yeah.
since since the beginning of time. So, I mean,
It's
y'all
been
been
great,
busy.
man. Yeah. How about yourself? How's the pod been going?
We've been going. I mean, we're
Yeah.
slow and steady. We're coming up on 100 here, so we're excited
Woo.
about that.
Big
Get,
monument, baby. Podcast world. I mean, not many make it to 100. You know what I mean? So good for you, brother.
yeah, century mark. It's gonna be good, but we've definitely had some great people on, since we last spoke and seen some great shows. Following us on the gram. You've seen me out
Yeah,
there at
I
the
see it. I saw the
shows.
Win Tapley episode. I watched that one, I think, right? Yeah.
Oh man,
Good
Wim
kid.
was we had a lot of fun, and then we got to get Wim opened up for Stolen Gin, and then I got to
Yeah.
interview Stolen Gin after. It was
Let's
awesome.
go. That's how it goes with Win, man. There's everything's good. Everything's smooth sailing with that kid.
Yeah, he's unbelievable. He's a star of the making for sure. Well, I mean,
No
you
doubt.
guys have been. I mean, how are you keeping your schedule? How are you staying in one piece with all the rock you guys are doing? I mean, like,
Dude, man,
what's the secret?
that is a great question. Dude, honestly, it's a lot, man. It's like more. I keep adding stuff on for some reason, like the tour agency thing that we'll talk about eventually, and like, my own pod, and then managing bands and stuff. But dude, it's great. Like if we could just get to the shows, like we're golden from there. That's the battle, is getting them booked and routed correctly and all that stuff and all the details that goes into, and then you get to play, which makes it all worth it. So yeah, dude, it's been touring hard. The tour we're really about to kick off these next couple weeks. I think it's at least 3 a week, most weeks 4 a week until May. So it's peak
Wow.
season for us. Peak season.
Woo! It's
I
tank
know. I'm
season,
excited.
baby.
It's tank time, baby.
Tank time. I love it.
I
Well,
can't
I
wait,
mean,
man. I've been working on this for a while, so I'm excited.
so, I mean, you guys got obviously. I saw you at Christmas time at the
Yeah,
Tankmas in
yeah.
Smith's Old Bar, which I hope is going to be a tradition unlike any other. Where
It absolutely is. It was
yeah
such a
we
smash. I was glad you were there. You had a blast. It seemed like it was good seeing you again. I was like, I think Tankmas might be an every year thing. You know what I mean?
dude. I had definitely had a lot of fun. I brought my buddy who had brought had a lot of fun too, and
Dude,
then we
he was cool, man. He brought a hoodie. He bought a hoodie while we were there. I was like, I like
yeah
that guy, man. He was nice.
dude he ended up that night lost his phone
Mm.
lost about everything everything from him
I'm
he
not gonna lie, it seemed like you guys were on that pace. I was like, them boys are having a really good time.
it's how you do it, man. It's how you
Yeah,
do
hey,
it.
that's it.
Hey,
Thank Miss Smiths.
it's
That's how you do it.
Agnes, we start the year strong. I mean, I've
Yeah,
seen you guys touring some places that, maybe not so much in the profile. Like I've seen New
yes.
Orleans, I've seen New York on the story. So tell me about that. Like, where are we getting in there?
Yeah, that's kind of been like the big goal of this tour in particular, and maybe the tour before we attempted it, but it didn't quite work. We're kind of in the, like you're talking about earlier, like really into the Greek life, like SEC, ACC schools, just like hammering them for, this is on our third year of touring, so we've been hammering them for about 2.5 years. And then it gets to a point, it's like, all right, fellas, we've got to make that leap out there, and we've got to make the 15-hour drive and go to New York City. We got to make the 9-hour drive and go to New Orleans. We've got to go to DC. We've got to go to Colorado even. It's like
Yeah.
we love playing the SEC, ACC. We love playing the fraternity stuff, but it's like we don't want to be that forever. We want to branch out. So if anything, that's what I like. The pseudo name for this tour was the expansion tour. So it's going pretty good, and I'm not gonna lie, it's been even tougher than the close stuff to book, because obviously you're making the trek. You've got to make it worth it. If you're driving to Colorado, we're talking 48 hours round trip. Like that's a lot of routing. But luckily, I love to do it, and I'm enjoying it. And yeah, I'm very excited about mainly the shows you mentioned. Like New York City is huge. New Orleans was awesome. That was a great time. We got Bourbon Streeted up and all that stuff. Colorado run's going to be crazy. We're still kind of routing. We're going to do Boston. We're going to do Nantucket is kind of a crazy one that we're doing. So that's
Ooh.
exciting. Yeah, dude, it's just great. It's really just snowballing the whole tour, which is freaking awesome, man.
So for you guys, like when you go to New Orleans, I mean, I'm a native Louisianian.
Are you
I
really?
lived
I
there for
didn't know
5 years. So
that. Where
yeah,
did you live?
I got a little story. I got some juice behind. I got some juice behind my name in New
A little
Orleans a little
lore, a
bit.
little
But
lore.
a little lore, a little lore. We've one podcast member or a podcast guest, Rio Rosa. They were from New Orleans. So
Yeah. So you were
or they're
from New
from
Orleans
Baton
or
Rouge.
just Louisiana?
I lived in Baton Rouge, so
Oh, okay, cool,
I did the
cool.
capital for a little bit, but
Yeah.
yeah, the I think you definitely have something there. That's a interesting city to. It's almost like a different country. I always look at it. So, did you guys have some fun? I mean, we get some food. What were some of the highlights of that trip?
Dude, it was awesome. It was spring break. We purposely booked it on spring break because obviously New Orleans is not really a college town, so we kind of have to be smart about when we book the runs that are gonna screw us out of not being able to play college offers, if that makes sense. So on the way up there was, I don't know, I mean, you probably don't remember, it was a month ago, but like crazy flood warnings, like all the hotels are slam booked because people were fucking leaving New Orleans because it was just a mess. And so that was fun. We were like, well, damn, we're gonna get up here and like, everything's gonna be shut down or something. But it ended up not being that bad. It was just kind of like a false alarm. And we got up there. We did the whole. We were staying near Bourbon, but not on it. So we got to do the whole walk around and the grabbed a daiquiri and went to the, what is it, the art square kind of stuff. Watched
Yeah,
a little show. I mean, and half the guys in the band had never been. I've been once, so it was like a big, culture take in day for us. And then we ripped over to Carrollton Station, played with some cool bands, and rinsed and repeated. In the morning, we wanted to do the beignet thing that everybody does. I want to go get some beignets, but the lines were
yeah,
crazy. You know how it is. You know how it is.
yeah,
But yeah, dude, it was really fun. It was really like a nice, like when we get on those, we really can like not even worry about the show as much because it's just fun. Like this is just a place I would just have liked to have gone, for
yeah.
funsies. So the whole band, like Bryce and Connor, had never been. It was like they were like, "Whoa, dude, this is a different world down here." I was like, "Yeah, I was telling you, it's weird, ain't it?" So it was really
Yeah.
cool, man.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I think anytime you get some first timers in New Orleans, I hadn't gone in a while since I was 21. I went back when I was 21 and I was like, man,
Yeah,
this is whoa.
I
Like
know,
I
right?
get
It's
on bourbon and
crazy.
I'm like, whoa, this is a different world. But
Yeah.
you know, how'd you build some relationships down there with the venue folks? Like what was
Yes.
as far as like kind of getting kind of get some more inroads there?
Yeah, I mean that was pretty much the goal. I mean, first time anywhere near there, except for we did Baton Rouge, did the Revelry, and that was really cool. But yeah, it was kind of like Carrollton Station. The venue was really cool. The two bands we played with, Paris Avenue, and the band Melrose, were really cool, and they had a good crowd out, and we played in the middle. So yeah, it was like a really good, like, all right, we can add this every time we do something like that. It's like, all right, we can add New Orleans into the routing. So it's like after we did that, I started thinking, like on the way home, we're going to be kind of passing through Biloxi. Like we could swing down and play New Orleans again this summer. You know what I mean? So each little stretch like that, each little venue we get under our belt, it feels like, oh, we've got another, not home base, but another territory we can use to our advantage and enjoy playing that kind of stuff.
There's a ton of, I mean, if you included a college route in there, you got New Orleans, you could go
Yeah.
down Louis, you go Baton Rouge, you go right there to if you got
Hattiesburg,
some time. Yeah, Hattiesburg, and then
Hattiesburg.
and then even where Ole Miss, like I can't remember what
Yeah.
the
Oxford,
city is.
Oxford.
Yeah, Oxford. Yeah, like when you got so much kind of in that little bubble that's about
Yeah.
2-3 hours from each other. So that's a good
Yeah.
territory to be in.
It's
Good people
fun.
down there.
Are you familiar with Neutral Snap? If you lived in Baton Rouge, they're a really big band down there. You ever heard of them?
I'm not. No, I moved out of there a while ago.
Okay,
But
okay. Well, they've been around for a while. I'll send you their stuff. They kind of run that whole little territory right there in the same kind of high energy rock way that we do. I'll have to send you their info. I think you'd really like them. Really animated cats. Legendary even. They've been doing really well with like some of the emo night stuff at like the Republic in New Orleans and like some of the bigger venues, which is really cool. But yeah, it was kind of like it was a very interesting culture stuff for us to like kind of like feel out where the venues were in town. And like Carrollton is not exactly on near Bourbon or anything. So, and honestly, it didn't seem like there was a lot of venues near Bourbon. It seemed like that's mostly like jazz clubs and stuff. So like
yeah.
no real rock bands playing in the little square or whatever. So I was just kind of trying to learn more and more. But yeah, I totally agree. Like I'm already thinking about fall. Like, all right, we should try to go Hattiesburg, Baton Rouge, New Orleans, maybe even go down to Austin while we're out that far. It's like
Yeah.
each little routing helps us so much. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
And now you mentioned a Colorado run. So like
Oh, yeah.
y'all went out there. So y'all did do a show already out there
No, we haven't. It's this summer. The run
this
starts this
summer.
summer,
Okay.
and It's a week long, which is amazing, exciting, you know. And I've been on there on vacation probably every summer for about 3 years. I love Colorado. Have you ever been?
I only went for like one day for a job interview, so I've never
Oh,
really
really?
gotten the full. I was at a
Yeah.
hotel, you know.
Okay. Well, dude, awesome town. I mean, just an awesome state overall. I was really stoked about it. And just another one of those ones we had to take the leap on. You know, I was like, all right, like the initial drive out there is 18 to 25-ish hours, depending on where you route. You know,
Yeah.
so it was like, and then we're get there. Like in all honesty, you know, it's like getting like $600 guarantee. So it's like, hey guys, we're going to Colorado, but we're gonna lose money. You know what I mean? It's like it's gonna be fun, and next time we won't lose money. But this time, in all honesty, we're probably gonna lose money unless we sell a ton of merch or something. But I mean, that's part of the game. You know, we get the same thing I'm talking about. Get under a belt. Maybe try to come through New Orleans and make money. You know what I mean? It's like I've got to figure out. I got to weave that web every time I book something, which is really fun. And I think, I mean, none of the guys have been to Colorado either, but me. So it's gonna be like they're gonna be like, we're gonna be chilling on the Continental Divide and then Telluride and beautiful mountain ranges, just staying in Airbnbs, having a blast. You know, so
I love it.
I'm
I
I'm
love it.
willing to lose money on that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think a lot of people would agree with you. Getting to go tour that state for a little bit is always a lost leader and
Yes,
a leader in fun
yes.
for sure.
Unnecessary evil, you know what I mean, or necessary win. But yeah,
So I
that's
mean that,
definitely the big run that I'm excited about. That in New York City. Just because New York City's been on our to-do list forever, man. So the fact that we're going there is also exciting. But putting together the Colorado thing was maybe the first time where I was like, oh, I've got to book this a year out. You know what I mean? It's like I've got to be reaching out a year before we want to go. There's no like 3, 4 months out being like, yo, can we come play on Saturday? It's like you've got to know where you're going to be and you've got to route it all perfectly. I think we're going to come down through New Mexico, which is kind of crazy. I'm kind of excited about that. And then Texas and then Baton Rouge. So I mean, it's a whole thing.
so when you like, I guess we can kind of transition a little bit on the touring agency
Yeah,
side, but like,
please.
with that, like kind of talking about that plan, right? How
Hmm.
are you like, are you just Googling, all right, best venues in New Mexico and then kind of going from there to see if they're kind of your vibe? And then you're like, all right, we're going to go here, here, and here. And I mean, like, how are you doing that? Is it
So
on Google
great
Maps
question.
or?
Great question. A lot of Google Maps stuff. It's less of Googling what are the spots, and it's more of looking at bands that do tour, like in a sense that I'd want to be like. I look at like the Stews a lot. I look at the Thing a lot. I look at their tour graphics and see where they're playing. And I usually use that as if they're playing there, it's at least worth trying because they're on agencies where their agent's just not going to book them somewhere that's just awful. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, Stews have played Telluride at the Alibi on, last summer. It's like, all right, I should hit up the Telluride. You know what I mean? I should hit up the Alibi. And that's pretty much exactly what I did. And then from there, it goes, you take your first hold that you get or your first confirmed date, and you pretty much back up and go forward from that. You know what I mean? So you really need
Mhm.
your key dates, which is what they call them, or target dates. Once you have that Saturday booked, it really depends on where you're at that Saturday. Same thing with New Orleans. Like we got New Orleans on Saturday. Where do we want to be on Friday? Biloxi. Where do
Mhm.
we want to be on Thursday? Birmingham. It's a lot of looking at Google Maps and seeing how far the runs is, seeing how possible it is, hitting venues up, not hearing from them, and then pivoting to another city. Just off not having any connects there. But yeah, that's pretty much how I do it. And then I mean, I'm like still working on that run. That run we've got a week booked, and I kind of need the following week booked. So been a year process or 8 month process on getting it booked, and I'm still working on it daily. Is in like, all right, that spot in Albuquerque didn't work. Let me hit up the worst spot that I didn't really want to do, but we kind of need somewhere to play pretty bad. It's like, all right, Albuquerque doesn't work. Maybe we should just go on down to Dallas. You know what I mean? So it's a lot of that. It's honestly a crazy web to weave. And if you weren't very proficient at this, I could see it being extremely difficult. But luckily, I booked almost all of our shows, so I'm kind of good at it. I think in a humble way. I've just done it a lot. I mean,
Yeah.
how
I
many
mean, like,
people?
I think building relationships probably is like the biggest thing. And like,
Oh
especially
yeah,
with how you
yeah.
guys have, been established within like the Greek community. Like, I feel like,
Mhm.
it's the same thing. It's like, hey, you got to get with the chairman of fun
Exactly.
at this, sorority fraternity. And as you do those shows, people come and then they're like,
Yes.
oh, we should have Jameson Tank at our place. We should have
Yes.
Jameson Tank. It's like probably after that show is probably where you're like, all right, I got to be on my P's and Q's. I got to get numbers. I got to get names,
Yep.
put them in the cell phone, and
I mean,
go.
during the show for that kind of stuff, because the social chairs, as you know, change like every semester. So it's like you can't just really build up a relationship with the chair because he's going to be gone. He's going to
Yeah.
graduate, that kind of stuff. But yeah, exactly what you're saying. Like, I mean, I won't stop a song, but I will stop singing during a song to go get a social chairs number. That's the kind of work you got to put in if you want to play as much as we do. And I'll make sure I get people's number because a lot of times they'll hit you with the, dude, yeah, we'll be in touch, and like if you don't put that connection together, they'll forget they were drunk, they'll never hear from them. If you get their number and you hit them up in the morning at 11, hey, it's Jameson Tank, man. Really appreciate y'all having us. Y'all are a hell of a crowd. Ever need us again? Any of your friends and sororities need us? Any of your friends and fraternities? Y'all just holler. We'd love to. That's really the name of the game that I think a lot of bands don't really lean into because maybe they're not as like personable. That's totally fine. Maybe you're more of an introvert. It's not your thing, and I really want to do this for a living, so I got to be extroverted. But yeah, that's
I
the
tell
name
you
of the
what,
game.
in another life, you are one of the best salespeople you could ever imagine. So
Well,
again,
thank you, man.
I think that's that follow up and that
Yeah,
real methodical like response and
yeah.
ways to follow up with people. I think that's massive. So
I appreciate
um,
that. I think you're
yeah,
right. It's kind of easy when I believe in the product. You know what I mean? It's like we've done the
100%.
work to where like I think we're, like I believe in us a lot, and I know what we can do when we're on and stuff, and even when we're off, I feel good. But it's like I have noticed sometimes like on the touring agency thing that I'll get to in a minute when I don't believe in the product as much, I'm not as good of a salesman. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah,
I'm selling something that I don't quite believe in, but luckily I believe in my band a lot. So I'm talking
I
about I've
got
been
you.
following up with some venues for years. I still haven't heard from them. I just keep hitting them up
I
for
love that.
years, dude.
Yeah, they're like, yeah, we changed the email 5 years ago. We got the wrong thing on the website. It's a
I
it's
mean,
a
they're gonna.
one and not a dollar sign at the end there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like a weird comparison that probably doesn't track, but I always think about this like the Kobe Bryant video where he was like sick in the finals one year or something, and there was some big rivalry with him and some guy named Vince. I can't even remember, but he was like, "You're gonna hear from me today. You're gonna hear from me. Like I'm sick, but you're still gonna hear from me." And that's kind of how I feel about it. It's like you might not be responding, but you're gonna hear from me. Like I'm gonna keep hitting you up until you even say no. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
I'm gonna show up, and that's the only way it'll ever happen. So.
What's your are you a emailer? Are you a caller? Like both?
I'm an emailer, dude. Venues, I don't think they want to talk on the phone that bad. It took me a while to figure that out because I was trying like, oh, if I could just get somebody on the phone and like get personable with them, it's like all these venue guys, I kind of know how they work now in a certain way. They're all like they're super like it's like a very few of them are full-time agents. Let's clear that up. Most of them are like GMs at the bars of the venue and they're doing all the bar stuff and all this. They don't have time talking on the phone for 20 minutes. They want to hear, do you play a lot of shows? They want to see a video and they just want to like a professional email. It's like to the point. So I don't even call anymore. I just entirely email. And then I mean I'll call some fraternity guys sometimes if it's like, that's more of a personable college thing. But venues, brief email with all the deets. I've really got it down. I mean, I've got it down well enough where some like 600 cap venues are taking a shot on us in cities we've never played before, which is wild to me. You know what I mean? It's like, damn, that's crazy. You know what I mean? So that's kind of how I hope it happens. Now we just got to fill these rooms up and deliver on the promise. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think you got the right idea. I mean, I think Athens is such a like a base camp. Like
yes.
you get a lot of folks that go to Georgia and end up living in Colorado. I know
Oh yeah,
somebody who's
absolutely.
moving there literally like next month. Like
Yeah.
there are people
Yeah.
that are always pushing out to these different places, Colorado, New Orleans, like, New York is a
Yes.
huge,
Huge
huge
post grad.
dog place. I mean,
Exactly.
oh my goodness. Like
Yeah.
I know more, I probably know more people that went to Georgia that live in New York than I do maybe in Atlanta. Like it's
I can see it, man. I mean,
you know,
you'd be surprised how many people we run into. They're like, dude, Jameson Tank, like I'm a dog, and we're in like fucking Mississippi or something. They're like, oh, I went to UGA. It's like the network of post college, like the fraternity thing, and even the other schools we play. It's like, oh, my son goes to Chapel Hill. He's seen you before, and we're in like Charlotte or Atlanta. It's like,
yeah,
wow, that's crazy. So yeah,
yeah,
I think people really not sleep on, but I guess if it's not your vibe, it's not your vibe. But the Stews kind of taught me, and AFTM and bands like that, they kind of were like, hey, these might not be like where you want to be forever, but these Greek life and college shows will kind of set you up for the eventual selling of tickets
Yeah.
in Charlotte, in New York City, in Boston, places that people move after school, you know.
Yeah.
So
And
yeah,
they're bringing friends and they're getting more people involved. You know, it's
yeah,
kind of like that snowball effect.
yeah.
Well,
The word of mouth is everything, man. It's everything, dude. You can't really fake it past that. You know, if the word of mouth is not rolling, there's no real buzz. You know, so
yeah.
I like to hope we have a
What
little bit.
what's the deal with the touring agency? So like, I mean,
Yeah.
you're obviously doing this for your band full time,
Mhm.
grinding. I mean, you've taken on another. You know, are you booking for other bands? Like, what's
Oh
going on
yeah,
with
I think I've got. I wouldn't even. I mean, it's not really a roster. It's very freelance right now. But I've probably got 20 bands that I'm offering shows to at any point. I have like just a list of bands that were interested, and it was kind of something that I was already doing. Kind of like you say, like I was booking our tours. I had the relationship with the venues and mainly the bars, to where they just need acts to come through, and it's hard to find. They don't want to spend a ton of time on it. And I was like, dude, I'm like literally throwing bands gigs all the time. Why don't I just do this like for bands I believe in and kind of like, take a little commission so it's worth my time and it can help me do my music more full time and not have to worry about, getting a side hustle or any of that stuff. It is a side hustle, but it's like one I'm passionate about, you know what I mean?
yeah,
And in a very weird way, I'm doing it already. It's like I'm booking shows and then being like, oh yeah, by the way, I started an agency to help out good bands. Like, if you guys are interested in booking us, you should really try to book Wim Tapley. He's freaking incredible. You know what I mean? And honestly, it's been working tremendous. It's fucking going fantastic. I probably booked like 20, 30 shows in a month and a half, which I mean, I guess that doesn't sound like a lot, but it really is.
yeah,
For probably 10 different bands so far. And I mean, I'm getting everybody offers and everything, and sometimes they say no. Sometimes it doesn't fit for the fraternity. Sometimes it doesn't fit for the bar. But I mean, I consider it as like my goal to kind of. I don't want to represent anybody full time, if that makes sense. That's what the usual agent will want. It's like, hey, no more shows that aren't me. Like, I will book all your shows. I don't ever want to be that for them because that could hold them back. I just want to
yeah,
help them fill in dates like I'm filling in for us. It's like they're sending me their calendars and they've got one show in Savannah and then one show in Nashville and then one show in Charleston. And I'm like, fellas, we've got to route this better. We've got to make better decisions here. Like, you're going to lose money on this. It's like, oh, you've got a show in Baton Rouge. You need to be in Birmingham the night before. You need to be not in Florida the night before. I mean, maybe Tallahassee, but it's like, I mean, some of these bands, it isn't their thing. You know what I mean? They're not business smart yet, but they could be. And I'm kind of, I mean, if they can hire somebody like me and I have done the thing, I'm not going to screw them on some 10-hour routing, where they have to leave the venue and drive for 3 hours and then drive 7 hours the next day. It's like, I've done that shit. I know, like, it's a hassle and you lose money. So I've really been enjoying it though, man. I'm shocked at how much I like it. I'm not gonna lie, because I thought it was gonna be annoying. Like everybody thinks of booking is annoying. What do you usually hear about bookings? Like, oh, dude, it's so hard to get in touch with these venues, right?
yeah.
Is that usually the consensus you hear on here,
I
right?
mean, I think like it's anytime I ask like, hey, like you guys gonna come down to Atlanta anytime soon? They're like, well, yeah, I mean, we'd love to, but like we don't know anybody there, and
Yeah,
it's
it's
like,
tough.
all right, that's a hard thing to get over. I mean,
Yes, one probably. I don't want to say the biggest hump, but it's got to be top three biggest hump for a small band is figuring out booking. Got to
yeah,
be, got to be. So if I can help them out at all and get bands that I think are good in good spots, and I make like a 10% commission on a small show, and I'm making whatever enough to get dinner. It's like I'm stoked about that. But
yeah.
yeah, and then you book some frat stuff sometimes like, yo, we made a lot of money on this one, fellas. Like we're doing good. So it's really cool, man. I've been enjoying it. I hope to pick up some more bands. I hope if some bands watching this hit me up, I can help them out with some stuff. Surely some Atlanta bands, like if you ever hear of any, I'm sure you're gonna hear of some in the next episode. But any of those bands that are saying stuff like that, tell them to holler at me. I mean, Tank Touring, I think is gonna be. It wouldn't surprise me if it became a full time thing. So I'm excited about it.
Love it. Well, now I've got like the full. I'm getting to the point now where I've met up with the full gamut, right? I've got
Yeah.
I met up with Juliet at Smith, so I know the kind of the booking side. Now I've got
Oh
a little
yeah.
touring, a little
Uh-huh.
taste of the touring action, and as people ask me for references, man, I will definitely be hitting them up with your name.
Dude,
Especially
totally.
if they're local in Atlanta. I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got a couple good folks. I did have Atticus Ronis on, who's Mockingbird, and so
I
he
love
talked to me a little
Atticus.
bit about his he's got a little agency too, and
Yeah.
uh,
I
so
think
they've
it's
got
the same concept. It's his
yeah,
I'm homies with him. He's actually on our match rate bill as well. So it's Perfect Animals, Penelope Road, and Atticus Ronis, which is pretty stoked. I'm pretty stoked about that bill. It's gonna be hype. In
Ooh.
altar room, so maybe we might be close to sold out because it's even smaller than Purgatory. So I'm excited. Um, but yes, Atticus is doing the same thing, except for he's a little more bill orientated, which is another way to go. There's kind of like that line down the middle where he's like planning 3 band bills and he's like helping homies out, getting in Atlanta, that kind of stuff. Not really touring wise, but I'm more into like, oh, you need a spot in, you need a bar in Charlotte to give you enough money to where you're not getting reamed on a hotel in, whatever city the next night. I've got you. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
but that being said, I could see it growing because I mean, like at this point, I've honed my band's pitch enough to where like I've got I mean I'm proud of this because I've got literal like theaters and world class venues being like, yeah, let's do it. Let's try a night with you guys, with us on top of the bill. It's like I had a venue in Boulder, Colorado. It's unofficial and I highly doubt they'll see this, but it's called Fox Theater. Have you ever heard of
No, but one of the Boulder venues does follow us on Instagram.
it?
So I don't know who it is. I think it's
It's probably not them, but it's like this 600 cap. Like I think Bob Dylan's played there. It's like a crazy nice room, like historic old venue in Boulder. And I had hit them up about just long shot on it. Like I was like, oh dude, we've never played in Boulder. Getting us in a 600 cap. I mean, we could probably do 50 tickets in Boulder, but I know how to pitch it in a way that works out for them. And they like hit me back immediately. And were like, yeah, let's try it. And I was like, oh my fucking like wow, And same thing with like Amos South End. That's a 600 cap venue in Charlotte, and we opened there one time for someone else, and did pretty good on tickets. And I just followed up the next day and was like, hey man, this is Jameson Tank Touring. We've been touring the Southeast for 3 years, man. We played Charlotte a bunch. We would love to, if you want to take a shot on us and two other bands as support. I think we'd crush. And he was like, yeah, let's do it. And I'm like, man, that's hard to do. You know what I mean? When you don't have some real hype and industry behind you. Like every other act on the thing is like Live Nation, like on their schedule, and it's like
yeah.
I'm proud that I've gotten any of those. Georgia Theater, even Masquerade, I think is cool. All that stuff. I don't even know where I was going with this, but I was just saying,
No, it's I think
yeah,
like you're getting you're getting kind of the I love that like excitement of getting that email back. I think that like that moment it sounds like it's just like so satisfying to get it back.
election, bro.
Dude,
It's like
we're
literally like sitting in public, like yes, you know what I mean? It's like you kidding me, bro? It's like wow.
yeah.
So yeah,
Wow.
I think I have an knack for it. And there's not a lot of guys that are doing it that aren't just agents on big agencies like Atlas or whatever agency it is. There's not a lot like just for a mid-sized band. There's not a lot of agents that are just going to throw you on tour. I mean, you've really got to will yourself into it.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of venues that are just looking to take a shot on some band with no touring history, no ticket history. So yeah, it's really about just like proving, like willing your way into it. I think is where I was going with that.
Yeah. What like as far as like the bands you want to work with on that front, like I mean,
Yeah,
I look at like the band like Asymptomatics, for example,
yeah,
like
love
they
them.
have like that's somebody obviously, but if somebody you didn't know was coming up to you, like, are you looking at, hey man, what is your tight, what's your tight pitch for me to be able to talk about these venues? What is your, do y'all have the Instagram? Do we have like one of the things that Julia talked about was just having all your stuff up to date, like having a,
Yes, no,
website,
that's huge.
having the, just be, on the onset of a Google search, are you looking official? Like, are you
Exactly.
making sure all of that stuff's taken care of prior to going and reaching out for them or?
Yes, I mean a lot of that stuff. Juliet's a great contact, by the way. She's booked us some great shows, and I mean she would be the greatest like word of mouth, straight from the horse's mouth of like what she wants to see because a million bands hit up Smiths. But pretty much yes, like a lot of the things you want to see is just like kind of what I was talking about on the buzz stuff. Like if you're not creating a buzz for your own self, that's pretty apparent through the IG, as in like crowd shots, merch shots, live videos that are up to date, like songs coming out, like anything that makes it seem like you're super active and you're like grinding and all in on this. If you're not doing that kind of stuff and your links from a show 2 months ago in the bio and you haven't posted in a month and you haven't put out a song in 2 years, it's like there's a difference in interest even for me as the booking guy in wanting to pitch that. Now if
Yeah.
somebody hits me up and they're killing it and they're playing places already and they've got a new single coming out and they're on it and they're tight and they're cool. I'm like, oh yeah, dude, like you guys are tight. That you guys are gonna be easy to pitch. You know what I mean? If
Hmm.
it's hard to pitch, I'm usually like, I mean, come get back to me in a couple months. I mean, keep working on your thing and get back to me, which hasn't happened a ton, honestly. Um, like I mean, like I haven't had to say that a ton. Most bands are on it pretty well, but it's like, yeah, I mean, you pretty much answer your question. Yes, if any of that stuff is, if you got to be pushing the buzz, man. You got to be like, there's got to be a strong feeling on the IG that like, yo, these guys or slash gals believe in themselves. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I look at y'all's like, I mean, the couple weeks ago in Clemson, like,
Yeah.
there was like the cops come to the show. I mean, hey, cops shut us
Mhm.
down, but it don't matter. We still rocked out, like that kind of thing. Like, that was 2 weeks ago on
Yeah.
Instagram, and I have a life, and I still remember that shit. Like, it's like, you're
I have a
that's the
life.
buzz right there. It's like, hey,
Yeah, dude.
you know,
It's like the narrative, even would be another way to call it. It's like if you're not writing some sort of narrative that's interesting as a band and is different as a band, it's like you go to sleep during the IG post. You know what I mean? It's like just if it's like close ups of you guys playing every time, and if it's the same post every time, like eventually they're gonna unfollow or lose interest. But if it's like big crowd. Oh, you guys see James Stink got shut down by the cops? Like, is that real? Stuff like that. Or like, yo, did you see 20 people wearing who the fuck are Jameson Tank shirts on their story? Like any of that stuff, it's like, or even like, I know we're an easy example. That's an easy example to make of myself. Sounds like I'm gloating, but like something like the Stews, like, oh man, the Stews are playing Bonnaroo. It's like,
yeah,
yo, the Stews are selling out New York City, or it's like, yo, Wim Tapley, he's got an album out and he just put out 3 singles. Stuff like that is like the narrative, the buzz that separates bands that play their hometown for 5 to 10 years and never do anything, and bands that get anywhere above that. You know what I mean?
yeah, for
So
sure, for
I'll
sure.
talk
Well,
to
I mean,
your
like,
off about that.
for your like, I was obviously the podcast is something that you had,
Yeah,
going for a while, and like,
totally.
is that something that's obviously you guys have been on the road a ton, and like, is that a
Yeah.
challenge to continue to try to
Great.
get that going and continue doing
Yes.
that while
Yes.
on the road?
Great question. Absolutely. If anything, it is the thing that the most has fallen to the wayside just because I'm booking so hard and touring so hard. And then we get back, we've been working on an album. So we're like, we got back on Sunday and then we're in the studio Monday, Tuesday, and Friday. So it's like, there's really only 2 days in there after 4 shows and driving, 18 hours where you really can like come back to earth. It's like, and it got to the point where I was like, damn, I really don't want to do a podcast today. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So the podcast has been temporarily on hold while I'm touring so hard. But I am very excited, especially stuff like this. Like just thinking right now, like I've missed doing this. Like this has been wonderful. I absolutely have missed this. Like I definitely want to get back to hosting bands. A couple come to mind are like Hall Pass. I'm not sure if you're aware of them. And like I want to do another Stews episode. I want to do another Wim episode. Like it's still in the back of my mind. I've just gotta re-execute upon it. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Because you know how it is. I mean, you've done 100 episodes. It's easy to skip a week, right? You know what I mean? It's like life happens. And you're like, fuck, dude, that pod I scheduled. I just don't know if I can do it. Which is pretty much what happened on Monday because we were in the studio and I was like, dude, after 12 hours in the studio, I don't know if I could clock in with the Indiebnb and give them a good attitude. You know what I mean? So I was like, I
dude.
better just reschedule. And I appreciate the understanding on that.
Yeah, dude. I mean, like, I think that's massive. I mean, like, I think where you're coming from, like, you guys have had so many great acts on the podcast that, like,
Mm,
the follow up is almost as fun as, like, just like this second episode is like, all right, like, we're not doing the song spotlight, we're not doing the same stuff I usually do.
yeah,
It's a conversation because we already know each other, and like, I'm trying to
exactly.
get to understand the what you guys are up to, what the next phase is, because like it seems like every like we had medium build on, then we had medium build on the second time. And that guy, like now, like I'll never get him on again, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. Like
It's
he
crazy.
is, exploded. And like it's like, but the progression and
Yeah.
hearing that was like kind of the most interesting thing, to kind of talk about with the bands we've had on before and the people that we've, the rappers we've had on, and other people. Like I got the author who's she wrote a book and she was on our podcast, Kat Shook, and she's got her new book
Okay.
coming out in June. It's like
Are you
her
gonna do it
second
again,
book.
Ryan?
So it's like, how do we get we're gonna get these people on for the
Yeah.
follow-up. And like you got the Stews, and I think like they're just a prime example of like they're somebody who's like blown up since you even first
Yes.
talked about them with me. Like,
Oh, yeah, yeah. It's cool that when that happens, man. That's super awesome that you've had a couple like that too. I'm sure you've had more than I even know about that are just getting huge in Atlanta.
the
And I mean, that's part
Moss
of the
is
fun.
one.
Who was one?
It was funny. The Moss, they're I
Yeah.
had them on. They're
I'm not familiar.
yeah, they're a band. They're kind of they're out of Utah, and like,
Okay.
but they played at Music Midtown. Like they're
Crazy,
early,
bro.
like
Crazy.
we're getting them. And so, but I had him on so early, and it's like, we're still, we're obviously still building our audience and kind
Yeah,
of building up from us. And I think it'll be funny when there's somebody, if we ever get to a point where somebody's doing kind of a requiem of like all of our early episodes, like they'll be
yeah.
like, oh my God, they had this guy on. And I'll be like, yeah, we had Medium Build on when he was still working in Alaska, and it was amazing. And like we had,
Yes. Dude,
the whole
that's
the phone
incredible.
cut out because it was too cold in his car. Like it's like,
What?
all
Dude, see,
those, all
that
those.
stuff like that's so cool. That's probably one of my favorite things about hosting a podcast is stuff like that. Because like you're kind of like I'm trying to think of a way to say it that's not like cheesy, but it's like kind of like these are like kind of like culture moments. Like people watch these things and like kind of remember it and like kind of like you're talking about the relationship grows with the guests that you're having on again, like me. Like obviously this feels like we're homies right now and not meeting like last time. And it grows to even where we've had stuff happen like the stews is one that I bring up a lot, but like people literally wear our merch to the stew show as like a I don't know if it's a homage or what, but they
Yeah.
associate us together in a weird way. And like people will come up to me in bars and be like, dude, I don't know who you are, but Stu's podcast, fire. You know what I mean? It's like stuff like that. And we're in like fucking, Alabama, or we're in fucking I think that happened in Hattiesburg, Mississippi when we did play there. Somebody mentioned it. It's like all over the world, like I can just bump into people and they'll be like, dude, you had Hotel Fiction on your podcast. You know what I mean? It's
Jeez.
like, that's crazy.
To the
That's
moon. I
it.
mean,
Yeah,
I love it.
moonshot. It's
Yeah.
like you're cataloging a band's place and time. Like you're capturing that moment of when they were, younger than what people will remember them for is, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like I had Hotel Fiction on when they were like, yeah, we don't really know if we're gonna do this. Like, we're just putting out a couple songs. It's like it's been great so far. And Stu, same thing. They were just playing like they're playing like one of the worst venues in Athens. And they were like, yeah, it's our first tour. It's going pretty sweet. We got a couple songs out. It's like pretty sick. And now it's like both of them selling shit out. It's like that's so cool, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah. They get picked up, and it goes, you almost feel like you're, again, you don't feel like I did nothing to do with it. I mean, again, I think it's more of just like, man, I'm so glad I got to, talk with
Yeah.
them for that period of time, and like be able
Yes.
to, be a little bit of a part of it, of like, oh yeah, like I went on this podcast, and then, after that, like all of a sudden we got picked up on this tour and that tour, and,
Yes.
it
I
was
mean,
off
I
at the
think
run,
I think you
and
need to give
then,
yourself more credit, man. It does more than you think. People seeing these interviews. This is where an artist turns in from like a somebody that you just enjoy watching to like a real personable like. You watch a 30-minute long interview with somebody and you're like, yo, I am a fan now. You know what I mean? So you probably helped a lot of bands out more than you think, brother.
I hope so. I hope so, man. We just love we just love getting to know them, and
Yeah,
getting curious and doing those things. But I have one other, one segment today that I do want to go through. Hang on just a
can't
second. I'm gonna
wait.
pause.
Start us back.
All right,
Man,
we're
it's really
back.
bright now.
Yeah, Jameson had to get the put a light on for me. It was getting a little. It was getting, the sun
I'm
was
glad you
going
said something. I never would have noticed.
um now I did this for one of our other bands we had on for a second time, and
Yeah.
like I think it was a good question, and I'm gonna pat myself on the back a little bit. I
Yeah,
like
hit
it.
it,
But
brother. This is me
so
patting you.
what's the one thing that I know, it's like a lot of time on the road, you have bandmates, and you're getting to know these folks, they're you're working with them, but also they're your friends and everything. And so
Absolutely.
I guess I want to get one thing about each of your bandmates that you appreciate, that they provide, like whether they're the vibes guy, or that's like, hey, that guy's always got a cigarette when I need one, or like one of those types of things that for each of your bandmates you can show a little bit of appreciation to them, and
Dude,
what they bring to the table.
absolutely. I think this is a great question that I might add into my ring of questions because it's so good, dude. I don't think that's a great way to phrase it. Just because, like, how many opportunities do you get to gas your bandmates up? You know what I mean? Very rarely. It's like
Yeah.
you just like, oh, dude, he gets on your nerves, right? It's like, well, not all the time. But to
Yeah.
answer the question, sorry. I think I really appreciate Connor, our drummer, and his punctuality and like music. His knowledge of music is far beyond anyone in the bands, I think, in a weird way. Like his recording and production knowledge is very cool. And I don't know, just like when we're in the studio, it feels like me and him are just like clicking. Like I'm like, do your thing, bro. And we've got some stuff coming up on our new music and the album that I just let him run on. And I mean, that's when the best results come with him, is when you just let my boy Connor go. So I really appreciate that about Connor as a drummer. and he's so punctual, so tight, such a great player. He never lets us down. Bryce, the guitar player with the bushy hair, you might know him. He
Oh
is
yeah.
definitely the vibes guy that you mentioned. He is like, if anything, the spirit of the band. Like without him, even sometimes when it's just me, Javi, and Connor riding, and Bryce isn't there, it'll just be pretty quiet in there. And then Bryce gets in, it's like everybody's laughing, we're just having a good time. And he brings that same energy to stage where he like really puts on a show and performs. I really always appreciated that about him. And he was technically the first guy asked to join the band, so if anything, has been the most important to getting us going. And then lastly, but not leastly, Mr. Javier, the bass man and backup vocals. I appreciate his a lot of things about him. Honestly, he drove us for the majority of the first tours, like insisted on driving without having anyone else relieve him. And I've always admired that because that was not an easy task to do. And he was just like, I want to drive. Like, I'm going to do this. We're in my car. I'm going to do it. I'm going to rock with it. He didn't complain about it. And I always admire that. And on the bass, dude, literally never lets me down. Like, we could start playing anything, and he is the last guy I have to worry about. He'll just pick it up, start playing. Just crazy ear, awesome musical taste, brings a different vibe to our music that I don't think we would have had. Rocks with the 5 string bass, which makes everything super heavy. And just a good cat, man. It's just cool. No, I freaking love my band, dude. That was a great question. Does that answer it
Yeah.
well enough?
No, definitely, definitely. I think like the easy question is to go negative and be like, hey, like
So
who,
easy.
what's the most annoying thing that everybody does on tour? It's like, no, like what are the things that get everybody through the tour?
Dude,
Like what are the things that are bringing the band together to
you're
get to
onto
that,
something there, man. Every time you get a band, you need to ask that because I've done 160 pods, and if anything, I've leaned more towards the which one gets on your nerves the most approach. You know what I mean? And that's just genius, dude. That is an awesome way to put it. I mean, I feel like I haven't been asked that ever. Like, I mean, nobody's ever like, who's your favorite bandmate? It's like, oh, which one gets on your nerves the most? So, dude, great question.
Dude, we're gonna get more positivity, we're gonna
That's what I'm
bring more
saying.
bands together via the
Yeah.
pod, via
We're
the,
gonna have to
get
clip
a
this
little
shit so they
appreciation.
see it. You know what I mean? And be like, hey boys, I was talking that good on y'all.
Oh,
Check the
but
clip.
brother, hey, that might be the clip right there, what we just did. So
Either that or me going from a super dark room to a super bright room.
just the lights coming on. Boom. Well, I appreciate you coming on, obviously, and sharing, everything going on. Now, I want to give the opportunity here. Obviously, album coming out. What's
Yeah.
the date on that? I know it's
It
like May,
is
I believe, right?
We're on song 9. Okay, so we've got an EP coming out in May, is probably what you're thinking about. And that is 6 songs, most of which are already out. We've been doing like the waterfall single thing. And
Yeah.
then completely unannounced, but our album will be out sometime in the fall, probably October. But yeah, very excited about the EP. There's one more single that comes out on the 7th that we're excited about. All the other singles have honestly been our biggest splash yet, original wise. Like people have really been digging them. Our listeners are way up. People are requesting them at shows. So yeah, get ready for that EP. It's coming, man. I think you'll
Oh,
dig it.
brother. I love it. I love it. We're awaiting that EP in May, and then obviously the full Monty in October. I mean, come
I
on,
think
baby.
the full link's gonna blow you away, man. I'm gonna go ahead and send you some private links that I can't send to everybody watching the show, but I'm gonna drop you as the host some links because we mixed one last night and we were all in there like, yo, we might be onto something here, boys. You know what I mean? It was electric in the air.
I
Even the
love it.
producer was like, damn, this is like the most he said I love this in such a weird way. He was like, this is not like going for the average thing. This is like very much shooting for something and somewhat getting it, which is cool.
I love it, man. Well, what's the next? I mean, the next dates coming up. What for you guys? I mean, this weekend, where we at?
Yes.
What? I guess.
Tomorrow we're at UGA for a Tri Delta event that Wim Tapley's playing as well. So that'll be and the asymptomatic. So that's a good bill.
Yeah,
That is tomorrow night in Athens, and then Friday we're in Swanee, Tennessee, and then next week we're doing 3 nights in Charlottesville, Virginia, which is super exciting because we have a ton of fans up there and they're really good to us. And then
that's
after
good.
that, it's a bunch more Virginia. We're out for a while. I think we're doing Augusta for Masters Week. That'll be cool. Yeah, and then New York City this summer would be if anybody, I don't know if anybody's listening, come see us in Atlanta at the Masquerade on the 31st. If you're in Charlotte, we're at Amos South End, as previously mentioned, 600 cap venue. Might need some help filling that up on the 30th, and then New York City headlining Mercury Lounge on the 25th. Boston, Colorado. Look up our tour dates. Come see us, man.
Hey, I love it. I love it. JamesonTank.com.
That's it.
On it,
JamesonTank.com/tour.
JamesonTank.com.
Remind me, and
Backslash.
I'll put you on the guest list for Masquerade, brother. I owe you one.
Oh man, I love that. I love that. Get in there. Get in there, you know. Get
You
in there.
know it, brother.
Get a
You're
couple
always
Red Bull
welcome to the
vodkas
tank.
before the game.
You got it.
Oh man, I love it, man. Well, I appreciate you taking the time, brother. And
Yes.
we'll keep in touch.
Yes, man, dude. Thanks for having me. I love the show. I'm a fan. I've been keeping up. I just really appreciate it, man. Honestly, I this is probably the first pod I've done in 6 months, so I missed it. Thanks for having me.
You got it, man.
Salute, brother. Be good, man.
Later.